Ready.
Hello, everyone. Today we are doing lesson 122. Forgiveness offers everything I want. And the correlating chapter text of chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's curriculum, section 1, the judgment of the Holy Spirit. Let's begin. Alex?
I guess I'll be reading the first paragraph from my laptop since I forgot to turn on the TV. You have been told, chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's curriculum, the judgment of the Holy Spirit. Paragraph 1, you have been told not to make error real, and the way to do this is very simple. If you want to believe in error, you would have to make it real because it is not true. But truth is real in its own right, and to believe in truth, you do not have to do anything. Understand that you do not respond to anything directly, but to your interpretation of it. Your interpretation thus becomes the justification for response. That is why analyzing the motives of others is hazardous to you. If you decide that someone is really trying to attack you or desert you or enslave you, you will respond as if he had actually done so, having made this error real to you. To interpret error is to give it power, and having done this, you will overlook truth.
Yep. What it's talking about there, folks, is recognizing when you've accepted a truth for yourself. It matters not if your brothers believe it or not, whether they accept it or not, whether they choose to judge it or not. As long as you're choosing to stand in your light of truth, that's all that matters. And this is why you do not have to do anything. It simply is the truth for you. You don't have to defend it. You don't even have to explain it.
I think for me, this paragraph came off a little bit differently for me. It brought up the memory of us when we went into that store, Talbot's, and how in what they saw me doing was a reflection of their judgments, their
beliefs,
prejudices, their beliefs of what they thought I was doing.
Exactly.
And so they believed that me picking up a necklace was stealing, rather than another customer where they wouldn't have thought twice about them picking up a necklace off of a counter. And so to me, what this is saying is that you basically see what you believe. And that's how you'll interpret what people say and do and their motives.
Exactly. It's like when your brother is having those beliefs, it's like you don't believe as they do, so you don't make their belief real for yourself. It's like we understood what they were thinking and believing, and we knew it wasn't true. But that didn't change what they were choosing to think and believe. And when they recognized they were wrong in it, it caused them a lot of pain and suffering and embarrassment.
Yeah, it had them leaving the store.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
And not sticking around to close up. We chose not to respond to how they were acting and treating us. When the lady looked at me and told me, we only sell petite sizes here. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. I think I'll just look around. And I continued on my way through the store. That kind of judgment, I chose not to respond to it. Another incident would be last night we had gone into Walmart to pick up some toilet paper and some other things. And there was a woman with her daughter in the next register over. And I wanted to grab something for us to drink because I had grabbed some food that we were going to eat on our way home. And the cooler that had the drinks in it was right there next to her cart, and her and her daughter and her cart were between me and it. And so I politely asked, "Excuse me, sweetie, could you hand me 2 of those teas inside there, the sweet teas on the top shelf?" And the woman looked at me and said, "Oh, no, you can get it yourself here." And she just moved out the way. But she said it really rude, really nasty. And she had added some kind of comment along the lines of, "We don't need to get anything for you." I was just like, "Excuse me, I didn't want to reach around you. That would have been rude. You know, my mother taught me better manners than that. You ask for something to be handed to you." But my initial inner response when I felt her pelting of nasty energy was, it's like my head swung around real fast, and I just looked at her and I was like, "Really?" And she like just looked at me. And I got the teas and I looked at her daughter and I said, "Thank you," because she held the door open for me. And I recognized that I wanted to just turn around and sock her mother in her mouth. But I understood what was going on. I understood that violent negative energy I was feeling was a reflection of what she was emitting. And I chose not to respond to it. Because I understood, and the interpretation I was being given was that she was simply tired and irritated with how her day had been going. But I understood that whatever she was experiencing, whatever judgments she was lashing out at me with, were her own about how she felt about herself, and that had nothing to do with me. And so instead of trying to think about what I had done wrong, I just recognized that however she was reacting and responding had nothing to do with me. In every essence, I was being polite. And I recognized that if I had turned and chosen to verbally attack back and be as nasty as she was being, that I would have become just as enslaved as she was in that egoic temperament and anger and vitriol that she was feeling. And I simply understood that whatever she was going through was hers to deal with. It had nothing to do with me. And that in all ways that needed to be looked at, that it was perfect exactly as it was. It helped me to look at whatever it was that came up within me, to recognize what was mine and what was not. Please continue.
2. The analysis of ego motivation is very complicated, very obscuring, and never without your own ego involvement. The whole process represents a clear-cut attempt to demonstrate your own ability to understand what you perceive. This is shown by the fact that you react to your interpretations as if they were correct. You may then control your reactions behaviorally, but not emotionally. This would obviously be a split or an attack on the integrity of your mind, pitting one level within it against another. And
Yeah.
going back to the incident you were talking about at Walmart last night, that's exactly what you experienced. On the inside, you wanted to turn around and sock her. But on the outside, you were still pretending to be happy, cheerful, pleasant,
Not pretending. I was simply looking at everything and not reacting, because I recognized that that thought that came into my mind to turn and sock her, because it was just a thought, was an ego thought. I understood that, and that the energies I was feeling coming from her was whatever she happened to be dealing with. She did not look like a happy lady. But it was understanding in those moments that whatever she was going through had nothing to do with me.
Okay.
And so recognizing that as she tried to lash out at me, I chose not to make real whatever she was experiencing. Recognizing that none of it had anything to do with me. And what this is talking about is when you are caught up in your ego mind and reacting, you're no longer seeing sanely. You aren't seeing clearly anymore. And that is part of what it's talking about. It's like I chose not to be upset by it. I just recognized the thoughts that were going through my mind in those moments for what they were, ego thoughts. I've gotten to a point where as I look at whatever's coming up within me, I don't react to it. I can look at it, see it for what it is, and let it go. And choose Holy Spirit's calmness and peace instead. Please continue.
3. There is but one interpretation of motivation that makes any sense. And because it is Holy Spirit's judgment, it requires no effort at all on your part. Every loving thought is true. Everything else is an appeal for healing and help, regardless of the form it takes. Can anyone be justified in responding with anger to a brother's plea for help? No response can be appropriate except the willingness to give it to him, for this and only this is what he is asking for. Offer him anything else, and you are assuming the right to attack his reality by interpreting it as you see fit. Perhaps the danger of this to your own mind is not yet fully apparent. If you believe that an appeal for help is something else, you will react to something else. Your response will therefore be inappropriate to reality as it is, but not to your perception of it.
Yeah. It's like what it's talking about there is like that lady at the store. I understood that basically her anger, her vitriol that she was putting out there was a call of help, a call of love. And instead of reacting to her anger and vitriol, I stayed calm with it all. And instead chose to thank them and go on my way. And in that way, I was simply willing to allow her to have whatever it is that she was experiencing, accept it as it was, that it was hers, that she was trying to deal with whatever it was. And I went about my way without being disturbed by it. overly. And I say overly there because I did have to look at that ego thought, that egoic temptation to turn a soccer one when she snapped at me the way she did. We don't need to hand you anything. We don't need to serve you anything. It's like, I didn't ask that. I simply asked to be handed something that was behind them. But it was the fact that she had responded to me in that way when I had said please and thank yous and everything else. I was being polite and everything. It's like I've come to understand that anger is never justified, even when it wells up. And I still have times where I find myself lashing out in anger. And then I have to look at that and recognize that I'm reacting and responding to something. It's like Alex has found that early in the morning, he has to wake me up very gently, very calmly, because otherwise I have a tendency to leap literally out of the bed. It's like if I'm woken up, I will leap and run. That's the response that I give. And it's responses like that that I'm still learning to try and let go of. I mean, we've been together for 18 years and I still leap out of bed when I'm touched. Or somebody says my name. And in moments where I will blow up in anger, I recognize in those moments that I'm reacting to something. And Alex generally will understand that I'm reacting to something, and he won't react to my anger. Generally. Not all the time. Generally.
We tend to be a good crutch for each other.
Balance.
When I'm emotional, you're there to support me, and when you're emotional, I'm there to support you.
Exactly.
So very rarely do we trigger each other anymore.
Yeah, very rarely anymore. 18 years together, and we've learned how to work with each other with all of the things that we've been through in our lives.
I think we've worked out a lot of our triggers that we've had, and that's what a lot of this coursework has been, is just work within ourselves and our own thoughts and feelings and judgments and opinions about things.
And beliefs, yeah.
And working on things as they come up in our forefront.
Yeah.
And just, saying that prayer to Holy Spirit every time. If I'm upset, I must have a misperception here. What is my misperception?
Yeah. It's like that incident that happened Saturday night. I kept looking at that, wondering why I was responding in those ways. And yet inside of me, I felt no anger. And yet the responses I was given was like a fury. Yet I felt no true anger inside of me. And I keep looking at that. What the hell is that? If that wasn't rage, what was that? And Alex had called it righteous fury. And I'm going, okay, well, what's the difference between rage and righteous fury? And I'm still trying to figure that one out. But whatever it was, it gave me the strength of 10. Oh, look. My husband handed me his wallet. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah, an empty wallet.
I know, huh? I love you.
I love you too.
All right, dear. Please continue.
Okay. 4. There is nothing to prevent you from recognizing all calls for help as exactly what they are, except your own imagined need to attack. It is only this that make you willing to engage in endless, quote, battles with reality, in which you deny the reality of the need for healing by making it unreal. You would not do this except for your unwillingness to accept reality as it is, and which you therefore withhold from yourself.
Exactly. So what it's speaking of there, folks, is when you're caught up in your ego thought system, they're telling you, you know, there's no reason why you cannot hear your brother's calls for help and for love. And that it's only you choosing what it is that you are imagining that they are saying and doing and being in those moments that make you imagine the need that you to attack them. And it's when you're in your ego thought system and you're constantly having those screwed up thoughts coming in that this person's done this to me, that person's done that to me, and oh, they're just trying to hurt me, and all these other things. Those are all imagined judgments that you're putting out there and laying over your brother that may or may not be true. And it's those endless battles that you keep going through in your mind and with your brothers here in this world. This belief that someone has done you wrong and someone's trying to hurt you. It's that constant pointing fingers and placing blame. And you deny the truth that they aren't doing anything to you. You're doing it all to yourself with what you're believing. And that they don't need help healing. They just need to, be hurt instead. You deny the reality of what it is they're actually asking for when you judge them to be attacking you. And as it says there in that last sentence, you would not do this except for your unwillingness to accept reality as it is, and which you therefore withhold from yourself. It's like you judge your brothers, you judge the world, and you judge yourself. You judge yourself as being damned in this reality because you're not getting whatever it is you're wanting and thinking you're needing. And so you're pointing fingers, placing blame, and cursing God and the world at what your circumstances happen to be in the moment. And what's that thing that we got from Bashar? Circumstances don't matter, only stated being matters?
Correct.
Yeah. I've come to understand that my circumstances don't matter. Only how I choose to be matters. The world is in chaos around me right now, and I'm still choosing to be at peace. Even though I have received my termination of tenancy notice, my eviction notice basically, I'm still at peace. Even though I have no place to go right now. No
well, that
money.
makes one of us.
I know.
I'm not at peace.
I know. I know. And that's okay.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with not being at peace right now.
Okay.
It's simply where you're at in the moment.
Okay.
It's things like that, folks. It matters not where I am on my journey or where he is on his journey. We still support each other every step of the way. And we don't hold it against each other that we are having the issues that we do. We accept and we allow. Please continue.
5. It is surely good advice to tell you not to judge what you do not understand. No one with a personal investment is a reliable witness, for truth to him has become what he wants it to be. Which makes me think of your mom and her video card. just so that you guys know, her mom told, Sabrina's mom told her tonight that she believes that I switched out the video card in her computer for a lesser one, which is not true. So, going on, continuing. If you are unwilling to perceive an appeal for help as what it is because you are unwilling to give help and to receive it. To fail to recognize a call for help is to refuse help. Would you maintain that you do not need it? Yet this is what you are maintaining when you refuse to recognize a brother's appeal, for only by answering his appeal can you be helped. Deny him your help, and you will not recognize God's answer to you. The Holy Spirit does not need your help in interpreting motivation, but you do need His.
Absolutely. And this is why we're to ask about everything, to go within to Him and ask for the truth of everything, to ask for the corrections. He's the only one that can give them to us. Our brothers can't. Only He can. This is why we tell you to question everything that we share with you. Don't blindly believe and follow us. Question what we put out here. Ask your guides, ask Holy Spirit, ask God. Is what they say true? In every one of the religious and spiritual texts out there, they talk about judgment and about not judging. And yet, that's all we're taught to do. We're taught to do it. The priest judges us. So we're taught to accept his judgments. And it's just, I find it ironic that in all these doctrines, they talk about not judging, and yet all of them judge. And we are all taught to judge, and that's part of what we are being shown here to let go of is our judgments. To no longer do so. Because that is what causes us our pain and suffering. And it's when we can let go of those judgments, when we can see whatever it is that's happening with our brother and accept their call for love, instead of believing that they're trying to attack because they're upset or whatever. All right, please continue.
6. Only appreciation is an appropriate response to your brother. Gratitude is due him for both his loving thoughts and his appeals for help, for both are capable of bringing love into your awareness if you perceive them truly. And all your sense of strain comes from your attempts not to do just this. How simple, then, is God's plan for salvation? There is but one response to reality, for reality evokes no conflict at all. There is but one teacher of reality, who understands what it is. He does not change his mind about reality because reality does not change. Although your interpretations of reality are meaningless in your divided state, his remain consistently true. He gives them to you because they are for you. Do not attempt to, quote, help a brother in your way, for you cannot help yourself. But hear his call for the help of God, and you will recognize your own need for the Father.
Absolutely. So, gratitude and appreciation. When we're interacting with our brothers, when they are acting and reacting to whatever's going on around them and we're witnessing it, we're to have gratitude and appreciation for them showing us something that's been inside of us, that we've done ourselves. We may not be doing it in that moment, but it is something that we've done, so we can see them in us, and us in them in those moments. And it's when we accept our brothers as they are without judging them that we are truly perceiving them. Yeah.
Perceiving?
Perceiving. Yeah, we're like truly perceiving things now, folks. Perceiving. In those moments when you can see your brother without any judgments and simply see them as they truly are. And you can see how you've reacted in similar ways. It's in those moments that you can extend truths to them. In sharing your own experiences. You're not making real their own problems that they've experienced, that they're believing in. But you are showing them a different way to perceive their world and whatever it is they're going through. And that response that you give to your brother in those moments when they seem like, they're going off the deep end or whatnot. It's like here in sentence 5, there's but one response to reality, for reality evokes no conflict at all. When I share the truth with my brother of the things I've experienced to allow them to see things differently, I come from a state of great peace. And that in and of itself attracts their attention, especially when they are in utter turmoil and chaos. And in those moments, I find that I am channeling Holy Spirit and letting Him use me, because there is only one teacher here, folks, and that is Holy Spirit. And when I'm speaking, He speaks through me to you. When I share the things that I've been shown and the understandings that I've been given about those things I've experienced, and I speak to you about them, it's Him speaking through me about those things He taught me, so I could let go that pain and suffering I had been holding on to. All those judgmental beliefs I had at one point in my life believed were the truth that defined me, the world, and my brothers within it. And no matter all the things that I went through, it always came back to the same thing, that I was the one judging. And that's what He kept telling me every time. You are the one judging this situation. And it wasn't until I let go my judgments that my pain and suffering stopped, that the situation went away. And He's been consistently true in that, folks. All right, please continue.
7. Your interpretations of your brother's needs are your interpretation of yours. By giving help, you are asking for it. And if you perceive but one need in yourself, you will be healed. For you will recognize God's answer as you want it to be, and if you want it in truth, it will be truly yours. Every appeal you answer in the name of Christ brings the remembrance of your Father closer to your awareness. For the sake of your need, then, hear every call for help as what it is, so God can answer you.
Yeah. When we're caught up in our ego mind, we tend to try to interpret whatever it is that our brother needs give advice and opinions on what we think they should or should not do. Great example of this, phone call we had yesterday with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all kinds of beliefs in what they think we should or should not do.
Well, their beliefs are based on their own experiences and the things that have worked for them in their path and their life. And so I totally understand where both of them are coming from.
Absolutely. But the point I was making is they have interpreted what they think and believe our needs are and what we need and should do in our own lives.
But it's based on their own lives and their own experiences and their own path. And
Exactly.
that's what they don't understand, that everyone has a unique path.
Exactly. And it's that kind of interpretation that it's talking about. You can't know what somebody else needs. You can't know where someone else needs to go and what they need to do in their life. That's not for you to know. And so you can't assume that you have the right advice and can be judgmental in whatever it is they're doing, because you don't know what it is that they are here to do, what it is they're here to learn. And that's what it's trying to tell you there. You cannot know what is right for a brother because you don't even know what's right for you. This is why you must ask Holy Spirit for the truth in everything that you're doing, in believing. When you're dealing with your brothers and you're hearing them in pain and suffering, don't make real what they're trying to believe. Don't let them paint themselves as a victim in your own mind. Because if you can see them as a victim in anything, then you can see yourself as a victim. And that's going right back into the ego thought system. It's why we need to be able to hear our brothers where they're at, recognize they have a misperception, and then share the truth with them. Lay that truth before them. It's up to them to pick it up and accept it. But lay it before them. It's that laying before them that gives them an opportunity. They can still ignore it, and that's fine. But recognize they need to be given the opportunity. And that's what you are there to do, to be the example and give the opportunity. And the only way to give that opportunity is to share your own experiences and the lessons you've learned from them, and to show how everything is true for you. Please continue.
8. By applying the Holy Spirit's interpretation of the reactions of others more and more consistently, you will gain an increasing awareness that His criteria are equally applicable to you. For to recognize fear is not enough to escape from it, although the recognition is necessary to demonstrate the need for escape. The Holy Spirit must still translate the fear into truth. If it were left with fear, once you had recognized it, you would have taken a step away from reality, not towards it. Yet we have repeatedly emphasized the need to recognize fear and face it without disguise as a crucial step in the undoing of the ego. Consider how well the Holy Spirit's interpretation of the motives of... No, I didn't. Consider how well the Holy Spirit's interpretation of motives of others will serve you then. Having taught you to accept only loving thoughts in others and to regard everything else as an appeal for help, He has taught you that fear itself is an appeal for help. This is what recognizing fear really means. If you do not protect it, He will reinterpret it. This is the ultimate value in learning to perceive attack as a call for love. We have already learned that fear and attack are inevitably associated. If only attack produces fear, and if you see attack as the call for help that it is, the unreality of fear must dawn on you. For fear is a call for love in unconscious recognition of what has been denied.
Yeah. It's like when I recognized what was happening with that lady last night, and I asked Holy Spirit, what's up with that? Where is, that ickiness coming from? What's all of it about? And he interpreted all of it for me right there in the moment. Because as soon as that thought came into my awareness in my mind, it was like, whoa, where did that come from? And I questioned it. And he gave me the answers. And it was recognizing her energy and how volatile it was. She had no thought as to what she was doing in the moment, no understanding. And I'm being told that in those moments, as I was taking in the energy that she was putting out there and understanding what I was perceiving of that energy, that emotional energy, because I'm an empath, folks, so I experience whatever the people around me are experiencing. Mental, emotional, physical pain and suffering. I experience it in that moment, so I understand what they're going through. And I'm getting an understanding that much of what that thought of that, puncher, soccer, was her own energies coming at me of how angry she was. And it wasn't necessarily at me, just I happened to be there in the moment. And it brings to mind how my grandmother had treated me. And it wasn't that she was necessarily angry at me. She was angry at her world. And I was just the punching bag in front of her. And that's the same thing that was happening with that lady. She had no thought about who she was talking to, who she was interacting with. And most of us don't think about those things when we're interacting with others. We don't think about how they may be thinking and feeling and experiencing things. And that when they're lashing out like that, they may be in fear of something. And I've learned to give over anything that I'm afraid of, because I recognize that limits me. Please continue.
9. Fear is a symptom of your own deep sense of loss. If, when you perceive it in others, you learn to supply the loss, the basic cause of fear is removed. Thereby, you teach yourself that fear does not exist in you. The means for removing it is in yourself, and you have demonstrated this by giving it. Fear and love are the only emotions of which you are capable. One is false, for it was made out of denial, and denial depends on the belief in what is denied for its own existence. By interpreting fear correctly as a positive affirmation of the underlying belief it masks, you are undermining its perceived usefulness by rendering it useless. Defenses that do not work at all are automatically discarded. If you raise what fear conceals to clear-cut, unequivocal predominance, fear becomes meaningless. You have denied its power to conceal love, which was its only purpose. The veil that you have drawn across the face of love has disappeared.
Yeah. So, when we're in fear, it's a fear of loss, loss of life, loss of limb, loss of friends, family, money, whatever. Fear is a catalyst in our minds to losing something.
Loss of a place to sleep at night. Loss of a home to house yourself, your stuff, and your pets.
Yeah. As children, and I spoke about this yesterday in yesterday's lesson, we were taught to blindly follow and believe and accept the manipulative judgments and dictates of those around us. And they are manipulative, folks. If you don't do this, we're not going to give you anything. It's all control and manipulation. And it's undoing that learning we've learned, to have that fear, to judge everyone and everything, to let it all go and recognize it for the lies that they are. That removal of the fear, recognizing that it doesn't matter if they're going to judge you or not. Whatever they think, that's on them. That has nothing to do with you. Whatever opinions they're holding, judgments they're holding, that's on them, not you. That's like karma, folks. That shit'll eat you alive. Would you agree with that estimation?
Sure.
You're cute. One is false, for it was made out of a denial, and denial depends on the belief and what was made out of it for its own existence. You know, fear is the thing that is false. And like I was just saying, we've been taught to believe in it, to fear judgments, that if we're judged, we're punished. So we've learned to fear any of those things. And that's the fallacy here, folks. If you can let go of a belief that someone has a right to judge you in any way, that's like stepping into the home stretch of freedom there. Recognizing in that moment that whatever your brother is choosing to think, believe, say, and do has not a damn thing to do with you. Whatever judgments are spewing out of their mouth, it's them telling you what they think and believe about themselves. And if they're choosing to live in fear, it has nothing to do with you. You don't have to live in that same fear, ever. And it's just understanding that in those moments, they need love and comfort because they're still locked up in their ego minds and in fear. Please continue.
10. If you would look upon love, which is the world's reality, how could you do better than to recognize in every defense against it the underlying appeal for it? And how could you better learn of its reality than by answering the appeal for it by giving it? The Holy Spirit's interpretation of fear does dispel it, for the awareness of truth cannot be denied. Thus does the Holy Spirit replace fear with love and translate error into truth. And thus you will learn of Him how to replace your dream of separation with the fact of unity. For the separation is only the denial of union, and correctly interpreted, attests to your eternal knowledge that union is true.
Yeah. What it's saying there, folks, is that every time your brother is giving those calls for love, you know, it may appear in the moment as an attack, as a judgment, whatever. But when they're doing that, in truth, they're calling for love. They want correction. They're not understanding what they're doing and why they have the pain and suffering they do. And it's by choosing to be an example in those moments and not accept whatever it is that they are saying in those moments as the truth. Don't accept their judgments, because you make real what is not real when you do. This is why you need to make sure that you are stepping within with Holy Spirit and asking Him for corrections, and not your brothers, because Holy Spirit will give you the truth of what you do and why you do it. All right, folks, that was chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's curriculum. Section 1, the judgment of the Holy Spirit. Let's move on to the lesson of the day. Alex?
Lesson 122, Forgiveness offers everything I want. What could you want forgiveness? What could you want forgiveness cannot give? Do you want peace? Forgiveness offers it. Do you want happiness, a quiet mind, a certainty of purpose, and a sense of worth and beauty that transcends the world? Do you want care and safety and the warmth of sure protection always? Do you want a quietness that cannot be disturbed, a gentleness that never can be hurt, a deep abiding comfort and a rest so perfect it can never be upset? All this forgiveness offers you, and more. It sparkles on your eyes as you awake, and gives you joy with which to meet the day. It soothes your forehead while you sleep, and rests upon your eyelids so you see no dreams of fear and evil, malice and attack. And when you wake again, it offers you another day of happiness and peace. All this forgiveness offers you, and more. Forgiveness lets the veil be lifted up that hides the face of Christ from those who look with unforgiving eyes upon the world. It lets you recognize the Son of God and clears your memory of all dead thoughts so that remembrance of your Father can arise across the threshold of your mind. What would you want forgiveness cannot give? What gifts but these are worthy to be sought? What fancied value, trivial effect, or transient promise never to be kept can hold more hope than what forgiveness brings?
Yeah. You know, what it's speaking about here, folks, is what forgiveness comes down to is it's taking everything that you've been taught to think and believe to be true about you, the world, your brothers in it, and every experience that you've ever had, and to give them to Holy Spirit in their entirety, not keeping any part or portion of them. And they are forgiving. So hand them over to Holy Spirit and then ask Him to interpret them for you, to show you the truth of what it was that you were hearing, seeing, and experiencing. And in so doing, He will then explain to you the choices you made to believe as you do in those moments, the misperceptions you were holding forth in those moments, believing a judgment or an opinion being handed to you by somebody else. So in everything, what He is asking you to do here is to go within to Him and ask Him to be your eyes, to be your ears, and to speak through your mouth. To hear His words and see the truth that He lays before you and accept it. Quit trying to pick and choose for yourself what anything is for. Recognize that every time you choose, you have more pain and suffering. Please continue.
Why would you seek an answer other than the answer that will answer everything? Here is the perfect answer given to imperfect questions, meaningless requests, half-hearted willingness to hear, and less than halfway diligence and partial trust. Here is the answer. Seek for it no more. You will not find another one instead. God's plan for your salvation cannot change, nor can it fail. Be thankful it remains exactly as He planned it. Changelessly, it stands before you like an open door, with warmth and welcome calling from beyond the doorway, bidding you to enter in and make yourself at home where you belong. Here is the answer. Would you stand outside while all of heaven waits for you within? Forgive and be forgiven. As you give, you will receive. There is no plan but this for the salvation of the Son of God. Let us today rejoice that this is so, for here we have an answer clear and plain, beyond deceit in its simplicity. All the complexities the world has spun of fragile cobwebs disappear before the power and the majesty of this extremely simple statement of truth.
Wow. So, what it's trying to say to you there, folks, is that the answer is within you. It's not out there in the world. The answer has always been within you. They are telling you it is within you with Holy Spirit. He is sitting there waiting for you to come to Him to give you the answers. And they're wondering why you keep seeking elsewhere. You're constantly seeking out there in the world, in your brothers, in a book, in a movie, in a song, someplace else, anywhere but within you to Holy Spirit. And everything that's been put into place here, all the chaos that goes on in your life, all of it is for your benefit. It's to help you understand who you are. And it's that acceptance of who you are that will help you connect with the rest of your brothers and connect back to the world. But this time connect back in a healthy way. Because let me tell you, right now, we're learning to disconnect from the world and all the crap we've been taught to think and believe. And as soon as we get it, and we go and connect back, we come back with the new thought system in place. So we're no longer being confronted and having to deal with somebody else's stuff anymore. We're recognizing that that's theirs, this is ours. No, thank you, I don't need yours. We learn to draw a line, so to speak. Say, okay, that's not mine. To simply extend the truth that we know to be true because we've experienced it to our brothers. And as it says here, God's plan for salvation cannot change, nor can it fail. He's held that truth within you all this time, waiting for you to figure it out. And in everything, they're trying to give you the answers here. You have to be willing to accept them. Because that's all they can do is put them before you. You have to choose to accept it. It can't be forced on you. Please continue.
Here is the answer. Do not turn away in aimless wandering again. Accept salvation now. It is the gift of God and not of the world. The world can give no gifts of any value to a mind that has received what God has given as its own. God wills salvation to be received today, and that the intricacies of your dreams no longer hide their nothingness from you. Open your eyes today and look upon a happy world of safety and of peace. Forgiveness is the means by which it comes to take the place of hell. In quietness, it rises up to greet your open eyes and fill your heart with deep tranquility as ancient truths, forever newly born, arise in your awareness. What you will remember then can never be described, yet your forgiveness offers it to you. Remembering the gifts of forgiveness Remembering the gifts forgiveness gives, we undertake our practicing today with hope and faith that this will be the day salvation will be ours. Earnestly and gladly, we seek for it today, aware we hold the key within our hands, accepting heaven's answer to the hell we made, but where we would remain no more.
Absolutely. So, what it's saying there, folks, is it's telling you that they're putting the answer before you. It's up to you to pick it up. To accept the truth that you are judging the situation, and it's up to you to let go of that judgment and that belief in that judgment. Everything that you're going through right now, folks, is for your benefit. All the trials and tribulations are for your benefit. Once you understand the things that you've chosen to think and believe in as being true here, and the judgments you've held of everything, you'll be given an opportunity to let them go for the truth. But you got to be willing to look in and at everything that you have been experiencing or have ever experienced, to see the truth of the judgments you made in the moments of whatever it was that was happening. Just as I did as that 9-month-old child. I had to look at that experience and understand that I was the one judging it. Judging whatever I was experiencing in the moment, how I was being treated. I did that judgment at 9 months old. And I had to accept responsibility that I did do the judging there. Nobody else did that for me. And it's hoping and praying that you will open your eyes to this truth, that you're the one choosing here to judge it, instead of asking what it is that you're perceiving. What the lesson in this is supposed to be for you. All right, please continue.
Morning and evening do we gladly give a quarter of an hour to the search in which the end of hell is guaranteed. Begin in hopefulness, for we have reached the turning point at which the road becomes far easier. And now the way is short that yet we travel. We are close indeed to the appointed ending of the dream. Sink into happiness as you begin these practice periods, for they hold out the sure rewards of questions answered and what your acceptance of the answer brings. Today it will be given you to feel the peace forgiveness offers and the joy the lifting of the veil holds out to you. Before the light you will receive today, the world will fade until it disappears, and you will see another world arise you have no words to picture. Now we walk directly into light, and we receive the gifts that have been held in store for us since time began, kept waiting for today. Forgiveness offers everything you want. Today all things you want are given you. Let not your gifts recede throughout the day as you return again to meet a world of shifting change and bleak appearances. Retain your gifts in clear awareness as you see the changelessness in the heart of change, the light of truth behind appearances. Be tempted not to let your gifts slip by and drift into forgetfulness, but hold them firmly in your mind by attempting to think of them at least a minute as each quarter of an hour passes by. Remember yourself how precious are these gifts with this reminder, which has power to hold your gifts in your awareness through the day. Forgiveness offers everything I want. Today I have accepted this as true. Today I have received the gifts of God.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I'm taking it's like at the beginning of every quarter hour.
No, 1 minute for every quarter of an hour. So every 15 minutes, give a minute of thought to the idea that forgiveness offers everything that I want. Today I have accepted this as true. Today I have received the gifts of God.
Okay. Thank you, because you know me in fractions. I was like, wait a minute, what was it talking about? The time
Right.
stuff?
So basically throughout the day, at least once every 15 minutes, think of forgiveness and how it offers us everything that we want.
Exactly. You know, when I started giving everything over to Holy Spirit, I kept trying to hold this, hold that, hold this, hold that, until I recognized that, no, I have to give him all of it, the entire thing, and say, okay, show me what it is that is going on with this. Why is this creating such conflict within me? And as I did that, he was showing me where I judged everything, where it was that I was misperceiving what was going on, that all the misperceptions were within my own mind. And that going in and questioning and asking Holy Spirit, it had to become a habit. At first, I wanted to just figure everything else out for myself, diagnose what everything was and what it was for, how my brothers were acting and reacting. And, you know, years ago, I would have just looked at that woman, probably, you know, just out of my teenage years, if she had said and acted to me the way that she did last night, I probably would have turned around and socked her. Because I would have felt like I was being attacked in those moments. And there's an understanding with the way my mind has changed from then to now. How I no longer see things as I once did. That as I have given this stuff over to him and chosen to accept the truths that he laid before me, I began to heal on all levels. I no longer find myself reacting to shit half as much as I used to. So consider this thing about forgiveness, folks, of giving everything over to Holy Spirit and recognizing that you're the one with the misperception. Especially if you're thinking you need to forgive something, that you're the one that has judged. All right, folks, that was Workbook Lesson 122. Forgiveness offers everything I want. And we have the correlating chapter text of chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's curriculum, section 1, the judgment of the Holy Spirit. Thank you for joining us today, folks. Please do the work. Only you can do the work. Question everything. Even all the stuff that we share with you. Question it. We're not infallible, folks. We make mistakes. We have misperceptions too. This is why we're telling you to question everything. Have a glorious day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sabrina Reyenga.
And my name is Alex Reyenga.
Hugs, love, light, and blessings on your journey, my brothers. You are loved. We love you. Please be the light you are meant to be. Please be the light we know you to be. Please be the light we see you to be. Please choose to be the light. You are loved. We love you. Have a fabulous day.